If you haven't heard what happened with JD Vance and this restaurant called Primanti Brothers over the weekend, buckle up because I cannot believe what happened. Welcome to my channel, Outspoken Samantha. If you are new here, welcome. I do appreciate you clicking on the video to watch it. And since you are here, I would love it if you would help me to grow this channel and hit that subscribe button now. And of course, turn on your notifications so that you never miss an upload or a live stream. And to those of you that are returning, you know how much I truly do appreciate you returning to my channel, continuing to support me. And I would love it if you would make sure that you are subscribed as well. So let's get into this story because it is wild. So over the weekend, I believe it was on Saturday, JD Vance was scheduled to do a casual campaign stop in North Versailles, Pennsylvania, but he's supposed to go to this very well-known sandwich shop in the area called Primanti Brothers. However, when he got there, he was told by the manager that he could not come into the restaurant and that if he even got out of his car, that they would call the police. Staff claimed that they had not been given any advance notice that Vance would be there and that they didn't want cameras inside and that they did not want a campaign event at their place of business. However, people in the community knew that JD Vance was coming, which calls into question the idea that the restaurant hadn't been contacted ahead of time. And they had all gotten there early to order their food and wait for him to show up. So they were all a little bit surprised when at the last second, the restaurant manager reacted in this way. And of course, as with everything these days, people started filming from inside the restaurant as all of this was unfolding, and they were describing exactly what was happening. So let's have a look at a couple of those clips.
It's a riot. The manager went outside, told them they need to leave. They will call the police if he comes south. Unfortunately, he cannot come in. So what's going to happen is that they're going to take down our name, all our information, so the next time the kitchen crew's running out because everyone's canceling their orders. Everyone just canceled all the orders, and we're just paying for what we drank, and then everyone's leaving. But yes, unfortunately, Vance cannot come out of his car, cannot shake our hands, because Primanti Brothers does not want him in here whatsoever.
So at first, I was a little bit confused by her clip saying that they were asking for everyone's names and phone numbers and the kitchen crew was leaving because everyone canceled their orders. But from what I understand, it was Vance's team that was asking for the contact information of everybody that had shown up to see him so that they could be notified the next time he was in the area and be able to meet him in the way that they had planned to this time. Also, the crowd responded by just paying for the things that they had already eaten, the drinks that they had already drank, and canceling the rest of their orders, which some have guessed would have cost the restaurant at least a couple $1,000s. And the kitchen crew was leaving as a result of all of that.
So we are here at Primanti Brothers in North Versailles to see JD Vance. And Primanti's hates money. They just lost about $2,000 worth of money because they said if Vance gets out of the vehicle that he's in, which is right here, then they will call the police.
So that gives us an idea of the chaos as it was just unfolding before our eyes. And those were the things that I saw, which drew my attention to this story. Now, at first, I guess Vance was planning on just leaving and making other arrangements to meet with these people. But apparently, after a while, he just said, screw it, and decided to get out of the car and meet people and potentially risk being charged with trespassing. But not only that, he went inside and paid for the cost of everyone's food that the restaurant had just lost.
Paid for everybody's food. We gave him a nice tip. And of course, when I gave him a nice tip, I said, no taxes on tip. It's all right. Don't hold it against her. She just got a little nervous, but it's a great local business. Let's keep on supporting it. And most importantly, November 5th or before, go vote. Let's go win this thing.
So he was polite. He asked people not to retaliate against a business that disagreed with them and said that they had just gotten nervous about having him there. And I'm just saying, It's a very stark contrast to how a Democrat and their crowd would have handled it. In fact, no restaurant would ever dare to pull this with a crowd from the left because they know that their business would most likely be burned to the ground. So this is another guy that was there, again, filming, watching this all happen before him, watching this all play out. And I believe he is also the Republican Party chair for the county. So this just kind of cleared up any confusion about what all played out. So let's just have a really quick listen to some of this.
I wanted to document what happened because there's some confusion about exactly what took place. Long story short, a whole bunch of people from Allegheny County, myself, others. We got to Primanti Brothers about 12:45. They let us in. You know, half the people are dressed in Trump gear, half the people, you know, are dressed normally. We all sit down, we order food. I wouldn't be surprised if Primanti Brothers opened up early to get us in. So there's like no surprises that we're all here to see JD Vance. JD Vance's SUV pulls up. We're all excited. Security cordons off the parking lot where Vance pulled up at. Vance pulls up. Secret Service comes into the restaurant. Secret Service guards the area between the SUV and the entrance to the restaurant. JD Vance, he gets out, and then the manager runs out and yells at him and says, "You can't come in here." So then Vance has a guy from the senator's office who pulled her aside. She's on the phone with corporate headquarters. Corporate headquarters tells her he's not allowed in Primanti Brothers. He's banned. Vance's people then go and start negotiating with this manager who has him banned. All of us, we're pissed off. I see that there's an obvious, news event. So I start filming right away because I don't want, the crime party and fake news to come out and say, "Oh no, JD wasn't really banned. It was just a miscommunication or it was just done for safety." No, he was banned. The manager banned him, and she called her supervisors, and the supervisors banned him as well. Then Vance gets back in his SUV. He's hanging out there. There's still negotiations going on. Everyone's upset. Then Vance gets out of his SUV, and he starts taking photographs with everybody. In an act of defiance, he went into Primanti Brothers, paid the bill for everybody, and then came out and was a gentleman about everything, and then left.
So we get the idea. People showed up. They waited an hour to see Vance. The manager said he wasn't welcome, threatened to call the cops. People left. Vance paid for their food and carried on in the parking lot. So if the story ended there, that would be bad enough. But I mean, if it really were just about this manager not wanting politics in their place of business, there would be a level of understanding to that position. However, threatening to call the cops if he even gets out of his car suggests that there is far more to it than that. And there is. Turns out, last month, mid-August-ish, Kamala Harris made a campaign stop at a Primanti Brothers in Moon County in Pennsylvania. She met with guests, managers, staff, etc., and there was no problem there. But even more than that, it gets much worse. It was discovered that this supposedly organic campaign stop and interacting with the crowd, hugging people, relating to everyday people, smiling, laughing, just, trying to make it all seem natural. It was all set up. This article from the Daily Mail outlines what happened here. It says diners tear into Kamala Harris campaign for kicking them out of Pittsburgh restaurant to bus in their own crowd for a campaign stunt. It says a group of diners sitting down to enjoy Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania's famous Primanti Brothers sandwiches were surprised and outraged Saturday after they were told by staff to leave by 4 p.m. It was a typical Saturday afternoon as a handful of patrons sat down for beers, food, and baseball, but were soon disrupted thanks to a visit from Vice President Kamala Harris. Staff told patrons that they would have to leave due to a private event, which turned out to be a campaign stop for Kamala Harris. A group of supporters of former President Donald Trump gathered outside the restaurant to boo Harris and wave signs and Trump flags at the vice president and her team as her team arrived at the famous establishment. For Kamala Harris's visit to Primanti's this afternoon, they kicked out all the customers at 4 p.m. so they could bring in their own audience, Republican Committee of Allegheny County Chairman Sam DeMarco III wrote on social media, sharing video of the crowd. "Look at all the white vans," he added. "Keep that in mind as you see video of them interacting inside." Vice President Kamala Harris stepped out of her campaign bus at 6 p.m. and entered the restaurant where a group of adoring fans, and campaign media welcomed her and snapped pictures. This video of those vans arriving with all of the supporters bust in from another area.
You are terrible people. Tell us again what happened to Primanti Brothers? They kicked us out of Primanti Brothers so that they could get the paid actors inside. Ridiculous. Where's all the paid actors?
You have to wonder how well things are going for Kamala Harris when they have to bring their own supporters with them to manufacture this idea that people actually love her and want her and plan to vote for her. That's just absolutely wild to me. And that says everything that we need to know. Obviously, this restaurant has faced a lot of backlash. And on one of their posts on X, people are going crazy. This person says, everyone go on Yelp and give a review of this woke restaurant. Now, that is actually something that I completely disagree with, because as a business owner, I have had people that I have never had any kind of business relationship with and would not be able to give an accurate review of my business go on to different places where my business is listed and leave reviews just because they disagree with me politically and have tried to destroy my business just based on that. I do think that reviews need to be reserved for people that have actually gone there to eat, have tasted their food, and perhaps the food wasn't great or the service was bad. So I don't agree with doing that. You do you, but that's something that I don't think people should be doing, even though I understand the sentiment behind it. This person says, bankrupt this woke restaurant. Someone says, y'all done effed up. So, I mean, and last I checked, there are about 10,000 comments on this post. So things are not going well. And I did check the Yelp reviews, and there are tons there that have lowered the rating of this business on the internet. So it is what it is. But since then, they have issued a statement because of all of this backlash. And this is the statement that they put out. It says, Primanti's prides itself on being a staple of the Pittsburgh community and a proud American business that has hosted sitting presidents, politicians, and political candidates from across the spectrum for over 90 years. Our doors are open to all patrons who wish to dine with us. Without any advance notice, today's campaign stop caused some momentary confusion for our staff. However, Senator Vance and his team were welcomed into our restaurant shortly after and engaged with our guests inside and on the property. Senator Vance's supportive comments that our manager got a little nervous given the Secret Service, police, and crowd accurately reflect the nature of what occurred, and we are glad that it was resolved quickly. Again, I don't believe that they didn't know that he was coming. Obviously, there were a lot of people there waiting for him to show up, and they knew in advance that he was going to be there. So I don't believe that they didn't know. I personally don't buy their apology for a second or their attempt at clarity. It does get a little bit worse for them as Laura Loomer decided to do a little bit of digging on the situation on her own, and she's definitely a controversial figure. I don't love everything that she does or says, but I can appreciate her digging in on this issue. And it turns out that this is far more politically motivated than any of us realize. She says, Primanti Brothers CEO's wife is a Trump Vance hater who supports child gender transitions as a Pittsburgh-based child psychologist who works for the University of Pittsburgh. Primanti Brothers CEO Adam Golom didn't allow JD Vance into the Pittsburgh location of the restaurant he's the CEO of because his wife disagrees with JD Vance's strong stance against giving gender transitioning hormones to children. Adam Golom is married to Dana Rofi, an associate professor of psychiatry, pediatrics, psychology, and clinical and translational science at University of Pittsburgh. According to her professional bios online and her provider listing on OutCare, Dana provides mental health and counseling for minor children ages 4 and older who want to transition their genders. She describes herself on Facebook as an advocate for Black Lives Matter, pride, and transgender issues with a focus on children who want to transition. June 12, 2020 Facebook post made by Dana, which I have screenshot and saved below, she openly attacked President Trump and his administration for what she called anti-trans discrimination in healthcare. Today, just one day after refusing to let JD Vance inside their Pittsburgh location of Primanti Brothers, they welcomed Kamala Harris's presidential campaign. It's evident that the CEO of Primanti Brothers has a radical leftist wife who supports childhood gender transitions, which JD Vance openly speaks out about on a daily basis on the campaign trail. In the statement below, Primanti Brothers deceptively wants people to think they welcome all people and that they didn't deny JD Vance service and that the incident was simply a matter of confusion, but they did refuse him entry, and they did so because of the radical leftist views of the CEO and the CEO's pro-childhood gender transition wife who also works in Pittsburgh. So this is who this person is at the head of this company. You cannot convince me that this was not politically motivated. If they did grant access to JD Vance at any point, if they did grant JD Vance access at any point, which I don't think that they did, but they may have, that they realized that they could potentially lose the business of all of these people that showed up to meet him, and that would be a very bad business decision. But obviously, they are a private business and they are allowed to do whatever they want, but their choices will have consequences, as we saw with Anheuser-Busch. They are openly discriminating against people based on their beliefs and treating one political party differently than the other. And they have made it known that they are willing to risk tanking their entire establishment because their hostility and hate means more to them than keeping their business going. And that's generally the vibe of most leftists these days. They are so blinded by their animosity towards the other side that they don't care if they suffer or if others suffer or if they just destroy an entire city, a community, or a business. Their anger and their rage is the most important thing to them, and everything else can burn before they let that go. These boycotts are going to impact them and potentially even devastate them, and they have no one to blame but themselves. But I would love to hear all of your thoughts on this in the comments below. Please be sure to hit that like button. Make sure that you are subscribed. Keep it real, guys, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.